The company you keep says a lot about you, and you have some explaining to do. But the company you keep in the gym and in your training camps as a UFC fighter could make or break you. But before we get into all that, let's take a trip down memory lane, shall we? Recap how the fuck we got here and what we're doing with ourselves. Because let's face it, we've all been drunk for the last 5 weeks. Back in October 2021, if you can remember such a time, Glover Teixeira beat Jan Blachowicz to become a super old UFC champion. But in his first defence in June last year, he lost the belt again to Jiri Prochazka. But at his age, misplacing things is just common practice. Jiri beat him in dramatic fashion with just 30 seconds to go. And what a fight that was. So, of course they booked the rematch, of course they did. They'd be fools not to. But then Jiri injured his shoulder, graciously vacated the title, causing the UFC to move Magomed Ankalaev up into the matchup, into the empty space. But Glover rejected that very kind offer. And everyone went, ooh, at the end of his career. Complete career suicide. You don't say no to the UFC. So they let Jan Blachowicz and Magomed Ankalaev compete for the vacant title, and what a fight that was. And by that I mean boring as fuck. So dull. And it ended in a draw, and we ended 2022 without a light heavyweight champion. How did we sleep at night? Dana got mad. He addressed the world and told them that he was like zoning out from the 3rd round or something, and immediately announced that the deal was already done for January. Glover Teixeira, Jamahal Hill, vacant belt. Vacant title? I suppose the belt is vacant too. What are you up to, Floops? 6 weeks notice. And no warning for Anthony Smith, who found out he no longer had an opponent, live on air. But instead of huffing about it, Smith has taken a very novel approach to remaining relevant. He's flown out to be part of Hill's camp. And beyond that, he's also going to be the backup for if either fighter drops out. That's right, he's going to train with Jamahal, help him to be a better fighter, and then potentially fight him. Of course, it has its advantages and disadvantages. He could give away all his tricks, give Hill the read on him, but he could also get all the data he needs to beat Hill. And even if they don't fight next week, it's probably going to happen at some point. For Hill, he's going to get his grubby little mitts on some insider info. Smith has faced Glover before. Yeah, he lost, but he learned something. He almost went the distance, and he got a feel for what it's like facing off against that legend in the octagon. And that's what they've both agreed on. They're not going to waste the little prep time there is trying to, mind game one another, or prove who has the bigger bollocks, or get some kind of psychological advantage. Or so they say. They say it's all about Smith passing on the knowledge, the insight, the intricacies, small things that Glover does different to anyone else, and the things that Anthony hadn't prepared for, the things that surprised him. Now, what they say and what they do are two very different things. But Jamahal is going to be a little preoccupied with the task at hand, and Smith needs to take advantage of his privileged position. Watch him, all creepy like. He won't be the only one there, although most of the others will never be a potential opponent, or they're not as close to being a potential opponent, may never be a potential opponent. Derek Brunson will be bringing the single legs. Bilal Mulholland Drive. Bilal Muhammad will be bringing that pressure, holding the key to relentlessness. And who's the other one? Aljo. That's his official jingle. He knows all about how to overpower his opponents, keep them down through sheer brute strength. And of course, Jamahal Hill's head jiu-jitsu coach has had a lot of planning to do. This is like the Avengers of MMA. each of them adding their own specific skill set to the foundation of Hill. That foundational hill. But what can we find at that foundation? Power. Power. He's had 4 knockout wins in 5 fights. When he hurts someone, it marks the beginning of the end. But Glover's chin, despite being previously questioned, was looking pretty good against Yuri. And despite all that power, I don't believe we've ever seen Hill fade in those later rounds. He's got the youth advantage and the reach advantage. And the one time that we've seen him lose was just so skilled, so slick, so perfect. I don't think there's anything that opponents can really take from it as a weakness. Like, I don't think it could be replicated. But really, is there anything that Glover hasn't seen before? He's seen the fucking dinosaurs. He has fought the best, like, grapplers and strikers that the UFC has ever thrown at him across the ages. And the team around him is no joke either, most notably of late, the new middleweight champion Alex Pereira, whose striking prowess has probably rubbed off on Glover, let's be honest. But as always, Glover isn't shying away from the game plan that got him to his esteemed position. Take the guy down, submit him. It doesn't make any difference that everyone and their nan knows that that's his aim. He still gets it done most of the time. And though both these guys only got 6 weeks notice in order to prep for one another, Glover was already in camp training to fight Yuri, another young guy in his prime with power in his hands. So he did get a head start, at least on general conditioning. Not that conditioning ever really seems to be a problem for him. All of this makes this fight, at least from like a physical point of view, very interesting. But it's the mindset of Jamahal that has me locked in. I'm here for it and it adjacent. Because he's approaching this fight with the enthusiasm of a kid at Christmas, and that will serve him under the brightest lights against one of the greatest to ever do it in enemy territory. Because to Hill, he doesn't care if he wins or loses. This fight isn't really even against Glover. It's against himself. Cue dramatic music. Not that. Something else. Cue something else. Ain't the DJ. Because his biggest fear is that he will die not knowing how good he was. And when that cage door closes, well, he's gonna find out. And that's a win in and of itself. And next week, we get to see just how good he is. Together. As we'll be hanging out, reacting to the first main event of 2023, and remembering what it feels like to be alive. I can't wait.